First Coast's most accurate forecast from the First Coast News Weather Team, certified by Weather Rate, sponsored by AC Designs.
Good afternoon, folks. Welcome in and happy Tuesday to you. I'm meteorologist Ross Mummah. We had a nice little cluster of some thunderstorms down across St. Johns and Flagler counties and even Putnam County earlier today, kind of late morning and into the early afternoon. That wave of moisture and cluster of storms have since moved offshore. And now we're really just kind of watching for the sea breeze to work its way inland and fire up a couple thunderstorms, some of which are making their way through portions of Clay and St. Johns County right now. And one of the folks who was about to join me actually had to drive up from St. Johns County. He was trying to beat the rain and the storms. Oh, look who it is.
Hey, did you not wear your glasses today? I thought we were going to
I did not
do the matching glasses. All right.
On Wednesdays, we wear pink and glasses.
Pink and glasses on Wednesday. You know what? I actually did dodge the worst of it coming up 13, but just building. We're getting those storms kind of focused in as we're looking. A couple of things you can kind of glean from the map, and as maybe you're an amateur meteorologist yourself, or you like to watch radar. If you're watching the stream, clearly you're into it, and I love that. So watch how these storms, we're getting that outflow, so classic little outflow we're seeing from a few storms, that band coming through, a little bit of a sea breeze as well. I was looking at the flags driving in, getting a nice southeasterly wind I saw coming up, so we're getting kind of a little bit of convergence, and I'm seeing, so coming across the St. Johns River from Green Cove into that central St. Johns County, so that's right kind of parked over Rivertown and my friends out there. So let's watch out for the next couple hours if you're thinking about the community pool. They're actually in Rivertown not that long ago, Ross, one of these afternoon thunderstorms we had a few weeks ago had a lightning strike.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So right there in the neighborhood. So
yeah, you got to be careful about that, though, when these afternoon storms come in.
There you
Kiddos
go.
out there in the pool.
Yep.
Or
Exactly.
your grandma's just lounging out. She's reading her 5th book of the summer already.
Don't let her, risk it.
Exactly.
You can read in the solarium. Come back inside.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. We're moving right on down 17 towards Palatka too. I mean, maybe that won't make it that far.
And I think I do have a look. Someone maybe just changed this, but yeah, Buckman Bridge right now. This is looking off to the west.
Yep.
Storms moving in.
We're getting to that hour, man, where the Buckman's going to Buckman too. So in our amateur traffic forecasting, we're getting that back up, getting off of San Jose there in Highway 13. Speaking of 13, so.
Oh, look at that! It's starting to fire up a little bit.
Yep.
Getting over that warmer St. Johns River water.
It does. Isn't amazing? Like the little micro climate can do a lot. And you talk to the old school guys and the fishermen, and I mean they've seen it over all the years. You absolutely can get that. In fact, it was interesting this morning. So watching radar this morning had that really strong, actually severe line of showers and storms coming across the Panhandle. Mm-hmm. And if you're watching radar. And just thinking to yourself, I've got my app and I'm going to watch this. And I start thinking, okay, well, it's moving east at 30 miles an hour, this big line with 60-mile-an-hour winds. You probably start assuming, well, I can just do some basic math and say, oh, this will be in Jacksonville by 10 a.m. But the things that you don't know, you just have to learn over several years of watching radar and kind of listening and learning about how the dynamics change once these lines kind of situate themselves from the Panhandle, which, really fed extremely by the Gulf moisture. And then they get over peninsular Florida, and you kind of lose a little bit of that juice, and you start to see these things weaken. And so kind of your telltale sign, especially with severe storms in the morning, is just watching the lightning diminish, and you can kind of realize, okay, so as this thing gets closer to Lake City, as this thing gets closer to Baker County, you start getting that Baker County breakaway is something that I've kind of seen over the years, which right there, kind of a beam with the rest of Peninsula Florida. If you look at Baker County on the map, you realize, okay, so right there, central to the whole peninsula, and you kind of start losing dynamics. So it's just something, you've seen over the years, and that thing split off and really didn't make for much of rain through the morning. Now, we did get a few showers down my way, in fact, that made the dog nervous around lunchtime. So.
Well, I just wanted to add, National Weather Service did put out a special weather statement on that cell.
Right here?
Yeah, that's about to cross the river and into St. Johns County for 50-mile-per-hour wind gusts and half-inch, so penny-sized hail also. And that's not surprising, seeing that updraft kind of pulse up. So, and this is a trend, we'll often see many times throughout the summer. Uses that extra juice and fuel over the warmer river waters, pulses up, and then can often kind of pulse back down on the other side of the river as it continues to move a little bit further eastward. So,
so river temperature right now running about 86, 87, probably that far south.
Not too much of a cool down if you take a dip in the river.
Right, not really.
A warm bath though.
Right, if you're so inclined. We mentioned baths yesterday, didn't we? With the atmospheric fluids and fluid dynamics. Seeing if you're looking at the clouds up top on your time lapse here over downtown, things coming out of the west and the southwest. But surface layer, you're getting the more, like if you're right there at 3 meters off the ground, starting to see some things coming off the beach as well. As we go through the rest of our evening, we were just talking to the producers, what's the weather story for the rest of the night? And other than that strong storm, Ross was showing us moving kind of over out of Clay across the river into St. Johns County. So other than that, that small little sliver, we're going to kind of have a little more calm kind of evening. Now, this model, I really like the information coming out of it. So, good information in, good information out. It's kind of picking up on that tail, all that lightning sort of trying to drift down 17 towards Palatka. I think that's pretty reliable. And as we go through the rest of the night, a little more tame.
And not all models have shown this today, Lou.
Right.
So this is our in-house model. But the HRRR, the HRR is what we call it, showed a lot of extra storm activity pretty much between now and 9 o'clock. I mean, up and down 95. And the National Weather Service talked about that in their forecast discussion a little bit today, that it would be a possibility along some of those sea breeze collision zones. We're seeing some of that, but certainly I don't think nearly as much coverage as what some models have shown. So that's why you always kind of have to take what the models are showing you with a bit of a grain of salt, because, they're not 100%.
Right. Yeah,
that's the sole purpose of us being here, is really to be able to read and
pick up the trend of what it's seeing. Like, what do you think it's seeing? Is picking up? So what it was doing is picking up that collision right over 95. And still, I think today, while we did have a bit of a sea breeze later, it still looked like the west wind was winning the battle. That's going to change tomorrow. I think tomorrow and Thursday, that changes a bit. So we get probably more of that 95 convergence, and then that blowout towards the west, and perhaps even a blowback towards the east. So, yesterday I put this background on the gateway to the Okefenokee, the water tower for Folkston, because of the wind damage they had, and they had the 50-mile-an-hour winds. Now we're looking at this crossing over towards, as we're talking about, Rivertown and Greenbrier, the kind of those communities on the western edges of Highway 210 in St. Johns County. So, be prepared for the potential, 40, 50-mile-an-hour winds. Let's now as it's coming across the river. So heads up, like true nowcasting. Let's kind of head on in the house and wait for this thing to blow over, which it'll happen relatively quickly. But the headlines continue with that afternoon thunderstorm chance. We're in that pattern. I was just on the phone with a guy who's a big kingfish tournament running out of Jacksonville this weekend, so we're going to have some forecasting for that starting on Thursday. But asking me about wave height, what the fishermen can expect. But we got in, and I said, that's all well and good, and we can get you that good information, but just be prepared for the afternoon thunderstorms. Make sure your fishermen know that too. And he just laughed and he goes, Lewis, it's summertime in Florida. They know it's going to rain. I said, fair enough. Fair enough, Paul. I'm doing my best Paul impersonation. Not Paul who works here, but my buddy who runs this fishing tournament.
They're prepared.
They've
seen
prepared
it before.
For that. They just want to know what the waves are going to be like if they're going to get sick. I'm like, okay, fair enough. So to Paul, we'll get those wave heights for you come Thursday for your tournament on Saturday. But so it's a pattern. It's something that we see with the pop-up afternoons with the waves of energy. Interesting kind of dynamic here.
So the reason I showed this, Lou, is because we've had the subtropical jet kind of just propelling these waves of energy out of the west. There's been, lots of severe weather from Oklahoma to Texas, kind of swinging our way and through Georgia every single afternoon and evening, even earlier this morning, as Lou had mentioned. That's going to start to weaken and break down a little bit, and we're not going to have those kind of just thunderstorm clusters making their way in from the west, which is why we're going to transition more so into that typical summer-like pattern of the sea breeze just kind of working in each and every afternoon for Thursday, Friday, and then even into the weekend.
And, getting prepared for getting through our work week, the change in dynamics, of course, we think about it because we want to be able to tell you, we want to get down to the nitty gritty of being able to tell you, as we go through our afternoon, these are the ways the storms are going to be oriented, and these are the ways the storms are going to move. I know kind of at the end of your day, you just want to know if it's going to be over your house or not. And so we understand that too. But it is really helpful in our forecasting to pick up that jet, see if it's retreating, deteriorating, and which unleashes the fury, more or less, of the that coastal sea breeze. Which, it's refreshing, of course, but new to Florida, what happens is you get the Atlantic meeting the Gulf, and things can't go down to the ground, so they go up in the atmosphere, and you get the trigger. So. Ross showing us our Wednesday, so let's focus in on the next couple of days, sort of our rain chances. Southeast Georgia has kind of been our bullseye.
And these are always up for discussion, Lou.
Sure.
Because you have not. I have made a couple of these, so you have not gotten to put your eyes on them at first glance. This is really your first glance, I guess.
No, I tend to agree, though. It's been Storm Prediction Center has been focused in on Southeast Georgia for the last couple of days. Not today. It really didn't pan out, as far as watching out for Brunswick, St. Simons, but they've had their fair share. And another sort of anecdotal, probably not scientific in every respect, but one thing I've noticed over the years is the communities that get the strongest thunderstorms on, say, a Monday, generally on the Tuesday, it's a little different. So I'd be more thinking, since Brunswick and Camden County, you kind of got the break today, I'd be thinking tomorrow might be the day things are a little juicier and could be a focal point. But I do like how you're noting stronger storms inland and then focusing out towards 75 as well.
Yeah.
Because as that Atlantic sea breeze kind of dominates a little more, you're going to see that push a little bit further west.
And it does look like maybe at least through the first half of the day, we might have enough southwest flow left that we still get some of that convection going on across some of the western areas and, the Okefenokee and Southeast Georgia initially. Yeah. And then once that sea breeze kicks in, those storms will push from east to west. That's when you're actually going to get some of those stronger thunderstorms and really just putting out some heavy rainfall rates for some of those western areas. So kind of a two-part as to why I had, highlighted Columbia County and the I-75 corridor and then up across Southeast Georgia.
Sure.
That's probably the best chances for some rain and thunderstorm activities tomorrow. So This is what the models are trying to show you. There's 3 o'clock.
Yeah. And so the window, today's window is a little earlier. Our window Wednesday, Thursday, what I was seeing through the morning show forecasting, it just seems like a little bit later, that more of the traditional 2 to 4 is the model kind of indicated, that 3 o'clock. And there you go. I mean, as this back builds back towards Columbia County, Suwannee County, and the Gulf, you see that collision. I mean, the wind barb's really showing it pretty well. And again, you can't use modeling like these, although they're so good now. But you cannot do it and use it to say, well, at 1 p.m. in St. Johns County, they're right at Rivertown, which is what this is showing again, we're going to get a thunderstorm. You can't do that. But what you do is you think, all right, so over several hours, over several runs of this, it's picking up the trend, and this is just classic sea breeze look, where the line essentially runs up and down the 95 corridor and begins that move more towards the west. That's just, so it is picking up on the same trend that we've been seeing, and so that builds your confidence in timing and general location. And Russ just put this together, and we were running our eyes over it. Love it. I think this is a great way to look at it.
Yeah, I think it's a better way to try to give people an idea of their time windows throughout the day. Because, yeah, as you said, it's super hard to try to pinpoint exactly when a thunderstorm is, one, going to hit timing-wise and location. I think this gives people just, a better idea. Okay, here's a 3 or 4 hour window in the afternoon that you probably have a good chance to see some rain or thunderstorms. Not a guarantee, obviously, but if you are going to see one on Thursday, this is probably the time frame or window that you might.
And, this might be a good time to remind folks, as we see this and we look at the 7-day eventually, we put pretty high, fairly high percentages of showers and thunderstorms on every day, and we've had that. But a reminder that it's just not everybody every day. You might be sitting. I know I've had emails from folks down Keystone, down folks towards Palatka, really Crescent City, that area, that say gosh, the lawns are crispy. And then, you might talk to somebody living in Fruit Cove or out towards the beach. It's like, we've had enough, so it's not everybody every day. But this is, the most precise way to kind of give you that window of when you have the best opportunity for it. And I completely agree.
When to piggyback off that, like the airport, the Jacksonville airport, for example, they only got 2/100 of an inch yesterday. And the last couple of days really haven't gotten all that much rain.
Right.
So statistically speaking, it's been a dry start to June.
Sure.
If you look just at that one point on the map where, all of our historical data comes from. Whereas, like you said, if you live in Fruit Cove or out by the beaches, you may have already gotten 2 inches of rain so far this month. And you're like, well, what the heck are you talking about? It's been dry.
Right.
We've gotten rain every day. Well, some places, like you said, Crescent City or down south, haven't gotten as much. The airport, also one of those places. So,
yep, that's kind of the conundrum of the record keeping. You got to look at the place that's been doing it for 100 years, but that is that's the kind of trick. Should we talk tropics a minute?
We should, yeah. That's all I had for local stuff until the 7 day. So
nice.
Got a couple tropical graphics here. 2 separate storms out in the eastern Pacific. What we expected to happen did happen, Lou.
Yep.
We had the first hurricane for the northern hemisphere. That was Hurricane Barbara, now Tropical Storm Barbara. That is pretty much about to get wrung out completely here very, very shortly. And then just off to the southwest of Barbara is old Cosme.
Cosme, very common name. I love a good Cosme. Haven't met one in a while. But, the next one I meet
in a while, which
one.
means you have met one. I feel
no.
like
The next one I meet will be the first one.
Oh, okay.
But like we said, they're just dying like a dog out there in the colder Pacific.
I was really waiting for you to say, like, actually, my college roommate's name was Cosme.
Yeah, and he works at the Weather Service now and Hurricane Center, and he's naming storms. Nope, I've never met a Cosme. But so. There is a seesaw to this. What can you draw from seeing a couple of storms that, had a hurricane, no longer, don't have any hurricanes out there right now. You seesaw over and look at our main areas for getting things kicked up at this time of year, which would be Caribbean and Gulf, and all things pretty quiet. Thankfully, it's taking that hurricane season 1 7-day bite at a time.
Now we have that big high pressure. Would you call it a Bermuda high?
Yeah.
At this point?
Yeah.
You want to talk maybe a little bit about just like what those local impacts are with regards to the tropical forecasting here? Perhaps that high kind of steering the flow.
Yep. So what we can expect when so there's the historical question, like, take my glasses off and get serious for a second. Like, so what does the high pressure have to do in order for, say, Jacksonville, Florida, to get a direct hit, right? And generally speaking, a couple of factors come into play that help us out. And one is a more what would be easterly situated Bermuda high, and typically you would see it closer and central over Bermuda, right there, center of the Atlantic, helps steer them and make them recurve off and up to the north or to the right. Another thing that we will watch, and what you got to watch very carefully, is the more western tick of that Bermuda high, or what could be an omega blocker, or if it drifts a little further, maybe no longer the Bermuda high. You just kind of call it that, considering its general location. But if it drifts, or if a high develops and drifts more towards the west, and you get this big blocker over New England, those are the ones kind of later in the season that you got to watch really, really carefully. Those are the ones. I mean, if you go back to the last direct impact, which would be Dora in '64, you look at that synoptic setup, and it was the classic kind of omega look with the high right over New England, and it helped steer Dora essentially right into Jacksonville. So it is it's not completely uncommon, but it's the situation that you kind of gotta watch very carefully.
So a couple things to keep in mind here through the next couple of months.
As you forecast yourself, you know what, you're looking at those charts. Of course, you're doing your charting as well, I'm sure, at home, or you just let us do it for you, and we'll show it to you, of course, each time. But while there is nothing truly bubbling up in the Caribbean and Gulf right now, we kind of deep breath, and we do what we should be doing now, which is just being prepared. Having I when I go to Publix, I always grab another case of water. They're like, are you a prepper, or are you like doomsday prepping? It's like, nah, it's just have a couple extra cases.
To go with your pub sub, of course.
Of course. Chicken finger sub. I have that thing chopped up and tossed in buffalo sauce, just FYI. But
wait. Did you call it a chicken finger sub?
Chicken tender. Did I say finger? I meant tender. Forgive me, Andy. Andy's on the ones and twos back there, and he's my.
Sale this week.
Is it really
They're on sale?
Okay, well, now we know. It is. I have my Publix app fired up, and they haven't sent me that text notification yet. So, the chicken tender sub, tossed in buffalo, that's the way to go. And not toasted. I don't mess with that.
Add a little spice, just like the weather, right?
100%.
A little heat, some extra heat. Real field temperatures every day still up above or around 100 degrees. So not a whole lot of variety, but we're still watching the sea breeze thunderstorms pretty much through the rest of the week and into the holiday weekend here, Lou. Father's Day on Sunday.
Got it, yeah.
Let
me just tell you this. Let me just tell you this about Father's Day weekend. It's not just a day. All right, Mother's Day is a weekend. 10 seconds. Andy says 10. Let me get off my high horse then. You look at the 70, as forecasters, you kind of hope for a little variety just to break the boredom and to give more of us something to talk about. But the forecast is what it is. So we're going to have those storms in the afternoon. We'll be back on at 5, Ross.
Yep. Take care, folks.